Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Captive Audience. I'm Kevin Hoare. It is the 9th of September in 2024, and starting a few minutes late here. Apologize for that. Um, and flying solo tonight. And I have no idea what's going on in the news. I hardly got to listen to the news today. And so, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at the news and tell you what I'm seeing. But I named myself today a special name. I know that criminals don't follow laws. It's kind of one of those statements that defines itself. But I think that's important when we talk about what happened uh, here in the recent days with the school shootings is that the real method for securing a school isn't passing laws that forbid people from carrying firearms at schools, only to leave the school disarmed and defenseless against criminals with criminal intent who don't follow laws that'll show up anyway with a gun. And thank the Lord that in Georgia, the school shooter who came in there was not old enough to legally own or possess a firearm, and did so nevertheless, um, that in fact they were stopped by a school resource officer who was armed and caused the person to surrender. And as we know, sometimes people surrender, sometimes they um, uh, decide to kill themselves. And when they do that, I think this is safe to say that it's far better for the people that enjoy the protection of a school resource officer than um, the alternative, which is that somebody continues to go shooting people. It would be great to prevent it entirely. And there are mentally ill people. There are people that apparently don't necessarily have um, a system of morality that they can follow that tells them not to go and shoot people that even treat them badly, or um, uh, perhaps they don't like. But hopefully, we can actually get to the point where we can identify these folks in advance and take action. That would be great. Meanwhile, disarming all of the not mentally ill, law abiding individuals apparently isn't a very good strategy for protecting anyone, much less schools. And so, thank you to that school resource officer and the people who saw fit to make sure that they do have them there. As we know, Kamala Harris came out years ago in 2019 and said she thought that school resource officers should be removed from schools, and that's a typical San Francisco leftist approach, which is what she is. And the result is that if you got Kamala Harris's policies, you will get a lot of people that um, a lot of schools that don't necessarily have the ability to protect themselves. And since we've seen how that worked, this is a really good time to um, not have um, the policies of Kamala Harris brought to our country. And if she's changed her policies, that's all fine. But in all in all honesty, um, I don't believe her, because then she'll just change back tomorrow when she blows with the wind to another leftist idea that she has in her mind that would be a great conclusion, apparently. That So who knows what she's going to come up with tomorrow or the next day or the next day. Um, but I just saw that today. I actually cannot find the original listing of it, but I read it, and it was Kamala in her own words from 2019 actually saying that. I did also see that a post that was from Andrew Sarabian, and he said that Kamala Harris is shown here not long ago bragging that she got 20,000 non-citizen Haitians into the country because they extended the temporary protected status to over 100,000 Haitian migrants. Those 20,000 Haitians ended up going into a town in Ohio and reportedly killed and ate the people's pets. And this is border czar Kamala Harris getting at the root causes once again, bragging about how she allowed those folks to flood into our country. The person who posted this, interestingly enough, is Elon Musk, who said, "Vote for Kamala if you want this to happen to your neighborhood." And then, and then what I've noticed is that there are a lot of posts on Twitter and retweets of Donald Trump taking cats and ducks and dogs and running, trying to protect them. There's one that shows two kittens. So please vote for Trump so Haitian immigrants don't eat us. And and that was Ted Cruz actually that posted that. So I'm going to share that one with you. It's great having having Twitter be this free speech zone where you can truly have the best possible information posted. Yeah, here's that's right. Yeah, there's a lot of really good ones here. There's one which shows him like this is protect our ducks and kittens in Ohio. And so this is for all your enjoyment. It's the House Judiciary that posted that. So this one is traveling like wildfire. And I'm glad to be on the cutting edge of that. It is yeah, Elon Musk posted that one with a I love this post emoji, and it's President Trump hugging a duck and a kitten in a pool in a lake someplace. So it's amazing what they can do now with video editing. It really works well. Anyway, I figured you would enjoy that one. You won't see that on the liberal lamestream media. Golly, what else is there going on in the news? I said I would start walking through the news here. And yes, thank you. I'm glad that you got to see the Reagan movie today. I hope you found it good. Yeah. And so Pat saw it and Lori. Excellent movie and many parallels. Late 1970s to now, for sure. And not only that, but just think of the people who have no idea what happened in the latter half of the 20th century, especially the 1980s. If they know that there was a Cold War and that we won it, and that there was a Soviet Union and it's collapsed, back when Democrats used to think the Soviet Union was super awesome, and Bernie Sanders used to go on his vacations there, honeymoon or whatever he did, you know, that system collapsed. And the reason it collapsed was in no small part due to people like Ronald Reagan, who stuck to their guns and without firing a shot helped bring down the Soviet Union and free the people of Eastern Europe. Peace through strength. That's something that people have to learn. And then they have to compare it with what they're getting now, which is not peace and not strength. It's connected. And it was very interesting also to see that the report about what happened and what failures took place during the Afghanistan withdrawal has been put out by the House Republicans on the Biden-Harris administration failures. And don't forget, the last person in the room with Joe Biden making these decisions and taking full accountability for what happened, including Afghanistan, in particular, Afghanistan, is Kamala Harris. And so this report really laid out the failures, laid out the timeline, laid out the decisions, laid out what Joe Biden and his henchmen, including Kamala Harris, did or didn't do to lead to this. And as we know, others around the world were watching this. One of them in Moscow, Vladimir Putin, saw what happened in Afghanistan and said, you know what? I think I'm pretty much just going to do whatever I want. And look what that turned into. Weakness is provocative. Speaker Mike Johnson said that the report that's been released paints an incriminating picture of an administration concerned with optics and public perception rather than accountability and the safety of American personnel. He said, due to the failed withdrawal, the Taliban once again controls Afghanistan. Terrorists have been emboldened. Billions of dollars of weapon and equipment are left behind, and America has lost the trust of our allies. Not a single administration official was fired over this catastrophe. So no one lost their job. And they won't even admit it as a failure. Biden thinks it was a huge success. And Kamala Harris has no choice but to say, yeah, big success. Which makes you wonder why Kamala Harris is trying to make the argument that she is the candidate of change. She is exactly the opposite of that. You are going to get the stuff she says is good that they've been doing. And if she thinks that she's the candidate of a change, then tell us what's wrong that you're going to fix, that you're going to change, because you also don't have to wait. If you think it's such a good idea to do some of these things, then do them now. I saw a great meme today and I loved it. It was a meme that just has this skeptical looking kid looking at somebody saying, let me see if I can find it because I loved it. A friend of mine sent it to me. He sends me a lot of memes. He texts them to me. And I really appreciate them because just when you need a good laugh, it's a way to get a good quick laugh at something. And then you got to laugh or you're going to cry, frankly. But this one, let me see if I can find it. Here we go. If everything is so great right now, then why are they promising to fix everything on day one? Well, we know President Trump's not saying it's great, but Kamala Harris is saying it's all super awesome. Well, we're going to fix it all on day one. So what are you going to fix? I mean, what is there to fix if everything is great? It's an important question because without knowing, it's just smoke and mirrors. They're telling everybody that everything is fine, but they're going to fix something that's not fine. Hopefully, everyone can suss out that for themselves what a complete bunch of nonsense it is. So let me post this stuff about Afghanistan because, we lost 13 service members there. And I can't think of a more insulting way to treat Gold Star families than the way the Biden-Harris administration has. They have lied about them. They've gaslit them. They have ignored them. They've insulted them. When the bodies were brought back, Joe Biden kept talking about his son, Bo, who died from cancer and did not have anything to do with Afghanistan or being a casualty of war. And he was just insulting to them. And if I recall correctly, was that the same one where he looked down at his watch? Like, I got to get out of here. I got someplace to be. It's sometimes hard to remember which tragic loss of service personnel they've managed to turn into a way to insult Gold Star families. But this is really, really serious because once you have countries around the world, and Iran obviously saw what happened in Afghanistan and said, you know what, these people aren't going to do anything about us supporting Hamas and Hezbollah to do what they want to do. In fact, let's help organize it for them so that they know exactly how best to launch the attacks that they have been and did launch. And putting that genie back in the bottle is very hard. President Trump could do it because all these countries know that he's serious. Just ask General Soleimani, the Iranian Republican Guards commander and leader of the unit that coordinates with all the terrorists around the world. They vaporized him, and all of a sudden, a lot of problems just stopped. And the Iranians basically knew that any of them could be next, right? But Joe Biden didn't just give this impression of weakness. He turned around and said, let's give them lots of money so that they'll like us and strike a peace deal with us and agree to drop their nuclear weapons or not develop them, really, is all that they were hoping for. And you know what? If you give billions of dollars to the leading state sponsor of terrorism in the world, and as the Biden administration should know better than anybody, money is fungible. Joe Biden himself should know this because apparently that's how money goes from China to his family to him. And somehow he's not rich, but owns all of these vacation homes and is a millionaire. How did that happen, spending your entire adult life in politics? Anyway, he knows money is fungible. So what did the world's leading sponsor of terrorism do? State sponsor of terrorism? Well, they gave the money to terrorists. They gave lots of money to terrorists. And then they said, these guys aren't going to do anything about it. So this is going to be difficult because if there is a President Kamala Harris, we're going to have a lot of wars because everybody's going to try something. Because when they know that you're serious, they don't try stuff. A bunch of people don't try stuff. But now they know, not only policy-wise, but also maybe personality-wise. What did Vladimir Putin say the other day when he said that he thought Kamala Harris he would favor her as for president? I think he might be telling the truth there. And he said, well, I'm hopeful that her infectious laughter will indicate that she's less likely to sanction us than Donald Trump, who did sanction us. What's funny is that I actually think that Trump probably got along with Putin better because Putin feared him and knew that he was serious. And that's actually a better way to be friendly with a country is if it's a hostile country, if it's a troublemaking country, you're going to get along a lot better if they know that you're not going to put up with their misbehavior. Just ask Kim Jong-un in North Korea. They went from being pretty much in conflict and calling each other names to, you know what? I guess Kim Jong-un realized that I think what Donald Trump said was, yeah, you might have a nuclear weapon, but I've got a really big nuclear button that I can press, bigger than yours. And eventually the guy started listening to the possibility that they might be able to have a future that looks like what Vietnam's looks like now, which is economic development instead of backwards starving communism armed to the teeth. This is where we're at right now. We're at a crossroads, and our country is at a crossroads. Yeah, we should be worried if they're speaking out in support of a presidential candidate. Exactly, because, and I don't know, Putin can say all kinds of things right now, and I'm not necessarily going to trust anything he says, but it does mean that if he views somebody favorably, maybe that person's a problem, you know? So I agree with you, Lori. And I do think that there are people that are so blinded by their hatred for Trump that they are willing to vote to do real serious damage to the United States and leave us in an economically damaged situation, as well as potentially finding ourselves in wars we should never have been in. Um, you know, this is where we're at now as a nation, and hopefully enough people can wake up in time, because worrying about someone's mean tweets is a lot less serious than worrying about uh, hearing about all the dead bodies they're going to have result from the failed policies. The news headline here says Jill Stein, who's I believe a Green Party candidate nationally, if I recall, could serve as a spoiler in several swing states thanks to Muslim voters, it says. Um, and this is true. I think that she did actually serve as a bit of a spoiler in 2016 with the votes that she garnered back then. And the states where this effect would happen is because she is the most popular candidate among Muslim voters in Arizona, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And Kamala Harris is the most popular candidate among Muslim voters in Georgia, and Pennsylvania. But not that much ahead of, Donald Trump is actually ahead in Nevada, which is interesting, with the same group. It's probably worth remembering, though, that the Middle East was peaceful when Donald Trump was president. And if that's what everyone would like to get back to, I wonder if there's going to be even still more Muslim voters supporting him. We'll see. But if it goes to Jill Stein, a lot of those voters, that could be enough to tip some of these swing states away from Kamala Harris. According to the polling, it looks like Donald Trump leads again nationally. I think that's a significant story because he tends to outperform the polling by several percentage points. Remember, in 2019 and 2020, he never led in any national poll. And what turned out to be a dead heat of an election, as we know, across 7 swing states, always showed Joe Biden in the lead. And so this is where, if you're going, a tie is really advantage Trump in those states, just mathematically, based on the historic, because they haven't fixed the problems with the polling, really. And we know some polls that were specifically identified as oversampling Democrats, the ones that were being hyped when they were trying to say that Kamala Harris had this huge bounce and she was leading and blah, blah, blah. And so I think it's worth taking a look at that. And that doesn't mean you rest on your laurels. That just means that when people are telling you that he's losing and he's behind, I don't think we can believe the media anymore when they say any of this stuff. But there's a lot of battle ahead, and there's a debate tomorrow night, and I assume a lot of folks are going to be watching that debate. I will definitely be making sure that I watch it. We will not do a captive audience tomorrow night during the debate. We're thinking about maybe doing something afterwards, but we'll see. Just watch the debate, and we'll have an opportunity to comment on it, of course, the next night as well on the Wednesday night show. But I'm curious what you guys think is going to happen. There is certainly it's a 3-way debate. It's Donald Trump versus ABC and Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris. That's as predictable as anything right now. But look, it's still up to President Trump to do well in this debate. I think Kamala Harris is going to come out and be kind of the indignant, how dare you, kind of, liberal woman that wants to tell wants to be offended at everything Donald Trump says or does and attack him. Because we know we're going to hear about the lines that, you know, conviction of the Stormy Daniels nonsense in New York, and she's probably going to try to draw him out and get him to talk about something other than the key issues on which Kamala Harris is doing very poorly, on the economy, on national security, certainly on the border. You know, the fact that she was the border czar and they've tried to cover that up means they know it's a risk factor for her. And I think that that's going to be her strategy. I don't think you're going to see one of these ho-hum debate performances. I think she's going to come out swinging and try to do what she did to Joe Biden back in 2019 when she called him a racist. And it's kind of funny because, you know, you would have thought that they could never get along after that. And of course, that's not a problem for Democrats, really. And in politics, you see this all the time. But so that's the latest on that one. And we're gonna learn something tomorrow night, but I don't quite know yet what it is. And I'm curious what you guys think it's going to be. Well, if she gets COVID, yeah, she probably won't show, or she'll claim Trump has COVID and not show. Nancy Pelosi tried to predict that Trump wouldn't show up. He's going to show up. Come on. That's just the dumbest thing ever. But I expect her to, they've tried to lower the expectations for her in hopes that helps them achieve at least a moral victory no matter what happens in the debate. She's going to have a lot of demagoguery that is going to be employed. And so we know that. And if you know that, then you can predict it, right? Now, she didn't deal very well with Tulsi Gabbard in 2019 when she got hit with some unpredictable attacks. But I guess she's been preparing. So, you know, I don't know what's unpredictable about this race right now, except that the fact that it's how unpredictable the race is going to be is unpredictable. It has been from the beginning. I just wanted to make a mention of the fact that James Earl Jones, the legendary Hollywood actor, passed away. He was 93. Great actor. He was the voice of Darth Vader on Star Wars. And I remember when he was in a TV series called Roots, that he played someone I think it was in the family lineage, somewhere in the 1930s, something like that. And but he's also been in so many movies, so many TV shows. Amazing actor. And you know, I think it's worth recognizing that, because that's important, actually. Actors, especially ones of character, shape our culture. And he seems to be one of the good guys. I doubt if I agree with him on many things. I just assume that he could have the same politics as anybody else in Hollywood. But having said that, you know, a life well lived and a contribution to an art form that, in a storytelling form that does matter in our society. And hopefully there will be more people that use it for good. By the way, I didn't realize this. He played the role of Mufasa in The Lion King, one of the characters in The Lion King. And so I just happen to remember that he was in it was a mini series, actually, Roots, back in the 1970s. So I think one of his first major roles is 1967. So long career, and a good guy. So I'm scanning the headlines here. I mean, there's always news. One piece of news that I think is worth mentioning, it's interesting, is that Alan Dershowitz, the prominent Jewish American lawyer, constitutional lawyer, professor at Harvard, has finally decided he is done with the Democrat Party. And he's somebody who defended President Trump in the first impeachment, but said he wouldn't vote for him and didn't plan to vote for him, planned to vote for Joe Biden. And he said, I may still vote Democrat, but I can't be associated with the party or its platform. And he paraphrased Ronald Reagan by saying, I didn't leave the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party has left me, which, as you know, is something famously mentioned also in the Reagan movie. Yeah, that's right. He was in Field of Dreams too. You're right, Bobby. He pointed out that speakers at the convention included Keith Ellison, Al Sharpton, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Elizabeth Warren, and Bernie Sanders, all of whom have stances on Israel that he just can't feel he can be associated with anymore. Bernie Sanders is truly ironic, being Jewish American as well. But Bernie Sanders is the one who went on vacation or honeymoon in the Soviet Union in the 80s. So I think that tells you everything we need to know. He said, Alan Dershowitz said, I've been a Democrat for 60 years or more. I voted for John F. Kennedy and I voted for every Democrat presidential candidate. But he said that the party he's become disgusted with it. He's going to be an independent now. And he's been disgusted by the anti-Jewish rhetoric that he's seen on display, which probably should come as no surprise, especially if you look at college campuses nowadays where they don't really bother to protect Jewish students anymore. Certainly not to the degree that they claim to protect nearly every other protected class that they say is threatened. And then when they have some people that are really physically threatened, it's hard to find universities that take a strong stance. He said that he thought that that Harris will give standard answers and be well rehearsed. Her goal is to not lose and keep her momentum going forward. But he said he thinks the debate will be important, and I think she'll be predictable with standard answers. I think you can look at the interview that she did with Tampon Tim Walz and with CNN's Dana Bash, and you can kind of see what her answers are going to look and sound like. It's going to look and sound like that. But, Trump did put forward some tough questions about the economy in front of economists when he was at the Economic Club of New York last week. And Kamala Harris really can't go in front of a group like that right now because they might ask her tough questions. And she doesn't really have the ability to answer them because that group isn't a group where you can just come and throw out a bunch of talking points and spin and slogans that don't mean anything. And that's pretty much all she has is stuff like an opportunity economy, which nobody knows what that means. And if you look at the economy they've given us, apparently they didn't give us an opportunity economy, but she's been in charge for 3.5 years. So why didn't she bother doing that sooner? Again, same question, right? So Dershowitz said, if I were Trump, I would challenge her to make that kind of appearance, like Trump did in front of The Economist, because I don't think she's going to be able to answer hard economic questions the way Donald Trump did. So let's see what we learn from tomorrow night. But I really do think that something is shifting in this country, and Dershowitz might be on the leading edge. He might be one of those principled liberals that just couldn't take it anymore, but he also might be the beginning of a shift that we're seeing not just with Jewish Americans, I think, but also with African Americans, especially men, and Hispanic, Latino, and especially women Latino women seem to be, I think, on the leading edge of a movement that's going to change what the Democrats thought they were going to get by playing one group up off after against another and being divisive based on racial or gender identities um, and ethnic identities instead of the stuff everybody wants, which is they want public safety, they want a healthy, affordable economy with low inflation, and they want to be able to raise their kids, get good educations, and be safe in doing that. And the Democrats just represent the opposite of all of those things. Even if they don't take responsibility for it, people know. So, um, so those are some of the headlines that I saw at the national level. There's a few headlines here at the local level. As I scan through Oregon Watchdog, if you don't pay attention to Oregon Watchdog, I think you uh, would benefit from checking it out each day. So Tina Kotek finally is responding to the lack of detox beds as the so-called deflection program, which is what they're doing with um, Measure 110. They've come up with a new program that's supposed, a new interpretation of Measure 110 that's supposed to result in people getting off drugs. But they can't do it if there's no resources to facilitate that. And Kotek says she's going to address this now. We're almost 2 years into her governorship, by the way. So about time that she started. I think that she started doing it just in advance of an election that she hopes she doesn't find herself losing too much ground in Oregon. And apparently Measure 118, the 3% tax on corporate revenues, gross receipts, just got a large contribution from a former Tesla engineer in California. Pretty much all of these people that are funding this effort in Oregon to get taxes on 3% tax on companies making more than $25 million in revenue, whether they make enough profit to afford the tax or not, people in California are funding this so that people in Oregon have to suffer with this policy. It's got bipartisan opposition, but and I guess this guy is a candidate for San Francisco mayor. I would just recommend he spend all of his money screwing up San Francisco if that's what he wants to do. This is, kind of leave Oregon alone. I think that's going to be a factor in whether or not people support this, because as silly as this idea is and as damaging as it is, I guess it's not silly if it's that damaging. I would have to say that they are barking up the wrong tree here. I don't think Oregonians are going to go for this, and I think they're going to be able to see through it, and they know that it's an instant 3% inflation, because if a business can pass along the cost to someone else, they'll do it. They have no choice. They can't just lose money. Hopefully they do oppose it, because it is bad for the economy. It's bad for their businesses, but ultimately they have to pass it along to their customers, and their customers ultimately have to pass it along to consumers. And that means you and I pay it. It's really that simple. And so they claim that they're just going to instantly cause poverty to evaporate. European countries have tried it, and they've abandoned it because it's been such a disaster. So Finland, for example, they've repealed it, and that seems to be the case with a lot of these measures. I came up with this, and Representative Ed Deal told me that he used it the other day, which is that Measure 118. Or no, actually, he said that about the ranked choice voting. He said that's the Measure 110 of our election system. And but Measure 118 is nearly as bad an idea, but from an economic perspective. So I think that rounds out the news for today. I'm scanning through. There's like kind of minor headlines still in many of the different parts of the state, and it looks like we've seen a turn in the weather. Hopefully, also a reduction in the wildfires is coming up. I don't know. But wildfire season is alive and well, unfortunately. And the Rail Ridge fire has consumed 107,371 acres. There is a lot of discussion about maybe we should look more seriously at trying to prevent wildfires and change some of these logging restrictions and introduce forest conservation. I'm a conservationist more than an environmentalist because I think you can conserve nature and live with it in balance. That is an important thing. And also, frankly, have the whole usage of our natural resources pay for itself, so that this isn't something that we're plowing billions into, that we could actually fund by using our forests in a balanced and reasonable way. And yeah, they'll keep lying. They will keep lying, and we have to be smarter than this is the test. We have to be smarter than the stupid stuff the Democrats will try to feed us. That's important. Anyway, thanks again, everyone, for watching here and listening in. Please share this show with everyone you can. And I appreciate you guys tuning in. And we will see you on the next episode of The Captive Audience, which will most likely be on Wednesday. Watch the debate and come ready to share your thoughts.